The death of accountability. How the world chose power over justice. In 2025, humanity stands in front of a mirror, and the reflection is shameful. We see the smoldering ruins of Gaza, the frozen graves of Ukraine, the silenced villages of Sudan, the forgotten children of Congo, the imprisoned souls of Xinjiang, the abandoned Armenians of Nagorno-Karabakh, and the starving refugees of Ethiopia. The crimes are clear. The perpetrators are known. The evidence is undeniable. Yet justice is nowhere to be found. So we must ask, has accountability become the privilege of the weak and the punishment of the powerless? Because in today's world, those who wield nukes, oil, or geopolitical leverage seem immune from consequences. We live in an age where truth itself has been taken hostage, and the international system built to uphold justice has collapsed under the weight of hypocrisy, corruption, and cowardice. The era of impunity. The very idea of accountability was born from ashes, from the horrors of Auschwitz and Hiroshima. The Nuremberg trials were supposed to mark a turning point. Never again would mass murder, forced displacement, or extermination go unanswered. The United Nations Charter enshrined the right to self-determination. International law promised protection for the weak, and the International Criminal Court, ICC, was created to ensure that no one was above the law. But today, never again has become a hollow slogan, because it is happening again, everywhere, and the world looks away. Russia's invasion of Ukraine turned a European nation into a graveyard. Thousands of civilians were killed, millions displaced. Yet Moscow still sits at the UN Security Council table, vetoing every attempt at justice. Israel, after months of bombing Gaza into dust under the pretext of defense, continues to act with total impunity, protected by the silence and complicity of Western democracies. Sudan's rapid support forces slaughter civilians in Darfur while the world debates definitions. In Congo, millions have died for minerals that fuel our smartphones, a silent genocide that the media barely whispers about. China holds over 1 million Uyghurs in internment camps. Satellite images show the prisons. Survivors tell the same story. Torture, forced sterilization, cultural erasure. Yet the world shakes hands with Beijing, signs new trade deals, and calls it strategic diplomacy. Ethiopia's Tigray War left hundreds of thousands dead. Armenia's ethnic cleansing in Nagorno-Karabakh displaced an entire population. The victims cry for justice, but the world's attention lasts only until the next trending topic. Power has replaced justice. What 2025 has made clear is that international law applies only when convenient. When a weak nation falters, the world rushes to lecture it on democracy, human rights, and accountability. But when the crimes are committed by the powerful, the nuclear-armed, the resource-rich, the politically useful, the vocabulary suddenly changes. Complex situation. Tragic collateral damage. Unintended consequences. These are the phrases of cowardice. They are the mask worn by Western and Eastern powers alike to justify silence in the face of evil. The United States and the European Union lecture others on human rights, but continue to arm Israel as Gaza burns. Russia speaks of liberation while bombing schools and hospitals in Ukraine. China talks of stability while erasing entire cultures. If you have nuclear bombs, no one dares to touch you. If you control vital resources or markets, justice becomes negotiable. If you are small and defenseless, the world will hold endless conferences about your suffering, but never act to stop it. This is not the failure of institutions. It is the collapse of morality, the death of the international order. The United Nations was born to save succeeding generations from the scourge of war. But the UN today cannot save even a single child from starvation under the rubble of Gaza or from a drone in Khartoum. The Security Council is paralyzed by the very nations that commit or support atrocities. The veto power, that sacred privilege of the few, has become the executioner of global justice. The ICC, meant to be the guardian of accountability, has turned into a selective instrument of political convenience. It investigates African leaders, but hesitates to even mention Western or Israeli officials. It calls out war crimes when politically safe, and whispers when the perpetrator has powerful allies. The language of justice has been corrupted, and with it, our conscience. The victims, without voice. Walk through the camps of Rafah in southern Gaza, where children sleep beside corpses because there are no hospitals left standing. Listen to the mothers in Ukraine who bury their sons in unmarked graves because the front line moves faster than the truth. Speak to the Sudanese refugees who walk barefoot across deserts while their homes are burned to ash. Ask the Congolese miners, some not yet 10 years old, what price they pay so that the world can charge its phones. Listen to the Uyghur men who have forgotten what their children look like. Listen to the Armenians who watch their homeland erased from the map. Their stories are different, but their fate is the same. They are victims of impunity. They are the evidence of a system where justice is optional, and where international outrage fades faster than a news cycle. A world without fear of consequences. What keeps a man from committing a crime? Fear of punishment. But what keeps a state from committing a crime? Once, it was the fear of international isolation, sanctions, tribunals. Now that fear is gone. Russia still sells gas. Israel still receives billions in aid. China still trades with every nation that once claimed to defend human rights. The global marketplace has become a moral void, where genocide is just bad PR, not a crime. The aggressors have learned the formula. Bomb fast, deny everything, control the narrative, and wait. Because the world will move on. It always does. Accountability must return, or humanity will not survive. If accountability dies, so does civilization. Because without justice, peace is impossible. Without truth, history repeats itself. Without consequence, power becomes tyranny. It is time to rebuild the moral order, not through speeches or UN resolutions, but through action. The ICC must be reformed to eliminate political influence and prosecute all war crimes, no matter who commits them. The veto power at the UN Security Council must end. Justice cannot depend on the permission of the guilty. Nations must agree to suspend trade in arms sales with any government under investigation for war crimes. And above all, civil society, the people, must stop being silent. Because silence is complicity. It is not the tyrants who sustain injustice. It is our indifference. We must demand accountability not as a privilege, but as a right for every murdered child, every displaced family, every erased culture. If we don't, the next genocide will come. And again, we will say we didn't know. But we do know. We have always known. We just stopped caring. The verdict of history. The question of our century is no longer who has the power, but who has the courage to stand against it. Accountability is not weakness. It is strength. It is the strength to say that no nation, no leader, no army stands above humanity. If 2025 is the year the world finally admits that justice is dead, then it must also be the year we decide to resurrect it, or lose whatever remains of our moral soul. Because if the measure of civilization is how it treats its weakest, then right now, the world is uncivilized. And history will remember not only the crimes of the powerful, but the silence of the rest of us.